User-Centered Web Design, The Systematic Userview Process, Part 3. Narrated by Lydia Ngami. Here is an overview of this lesson. When we begin any web project, it is tempting to think that a solid design will work flawlessly the first time. In reality, the first prototype almost always contains hidden problems that only surface when real users interact with it. That is why continuous testing is a cornerstone of user-centered design. We start evaluating usability as soon as a mockup exists, and we keep testing throughout development. Each test uncovers issues that can be fixed before they become expensive to rework. By embedding feedback loops, we ensure the site evolves in step with user expectations, rather than forcing users to adapt to a rigid design. This approach not only improves the final product but also saves time and resources in the long run. The systematic userview process is a structured roadmap that guides designers from abstract goals to concrete interface elements. It begins with documenting the website's overall objectives and the functional capabilities it must support. Parallel to that, we capture the user culture, who the audience is, what environments they operate in, and what mental models they bring. With these foundations, designers produce site-wide guidelines that inform page layouts, navigation schemes, and visual style. Prototypes are then built, ranging from low-fidelity sketches to interactive mock-UPS, and evaluated through focus groups, questionnaires, and usability labs. The insights gathered feed back into the documentation, prompting revisions to goals, requirements, or design guidelines. This cyclical flow continues until the site meets both business and user expectations, and a future version can be planned based on updated feedback. Goal specification is the first narrative that tells the story of why a website exists. General goals are broad statements such as providing consistent information, ensuring reliable access, and offering communication tools that support the tasks users need to accomplish. These goals are shared by all visitors and set the tone for the entire project. In addition, we must articulate user-specific goals that recognize the varied motivations of different audience segments. For example, a power shopper may demand rapid navigation to a product, while a casual browser prefers a leisurely exploration. Identifying these potentially conflicting needs early allows designers to balance speed with discoverability. The resulting goal hierarchy becomes the reference point for every functional requirement and design decision that follows. Functional requirements translate the abstract goals into concrete capabilities that the system must deliver. In a shopping website, the most fundamental function is allowing users to browse the entire product selection, whether they are looking for a single item or a bundle. Complementary to browsing is a robust search feature that lets users locate specific products quickly. Highlighting special offers and promotions helps drive sales and improves the perceived value of the site. The checkout process must handle the full transaction lifecycle, from cart management through secure payment processing and order confirmation. Users also need to specify delivery preferences, such as address, timing, and shipping method. Finally, the site should leverage the user's shopping history to present personalized recommendations, increasing engagement and repeat purchases. Together, these functions create a seamless shopping experience that aligns with both business objectives and user expectations. Non-functional requirements describe the quality attributes that determine how well the functional features perform. First, users must feel that the website delivers a tangible benefit, whether that is saving time, providing useful information, or making purchases easier. Second, the development and maintenance costs should never outweigh the benefits gained. This cost-benefit analysis keeps the project financially viable. Third, the site must be accessible to a broad audience, including people with disabilities, different devices, and varying bandwidth conditions. Finally, performance metrics such as load time, uptime, and response speed are critical for maintaining user trust and satisfaction. While these requirements are less visible than functional features, they are essential for long-term success and often become the deciding factor between a good site and a great one. A well-structured document serves as the single source of truth for the entire development team. It begins with an introduction that outlines the motivation, need, and high-level objectives of the site, linking back to both general and user-specific goals. The next section describes the website model, situating the project within the 5 context levels: technical, organizational, user, task, and environmental. Functional requirements are listed in detail, followed by a separate section for non-functional constraints such as performance, security, and accessibility. The technology chapter specifies the servers, scripting languages, databases, and any third-party services required to implement the design. Information structure requirements define how data will be organized, ensuring consistency across the site. Finally, maintenance information and a glossary of terms help future stakeholders understand the document without ambiguity. User culture captures the characteristics, preferences, and expectations of the people who will interact with the website. The first step is to clearly define the target audience, whether they are busy professionals, teenage shoppers, or senior citizens. Once the groups are identified, designers must recruit representative participants for usability evaluation, ensuring that the sample reflects real-world diversity. Data collection methods such as focus groups, questionnaires, and field observations reveal the user's habits, motivations, and pain points. By grounding design decisions in this empirical evidence, we avoid the trap of projecting our own preferences onto the product. The resulting audience profile becomes a guiding artifact for everything from navigation structure to visual styling. The external environment describes where and how users will access the website. A user at home on a desktop computer may have a large screen, stable broadband, and a relaxed pace, while a mobile user in a coffee shop might be on a small handset with intermittent connectivity. Understanding these contexts informs decisions about responsive layout, touch-friendly controls, and content prioritization. Device capabilities such as screen resolution, input method, and processing power dictate which features can be delivered smoothly. Network conditions affect load times and the feasibility of rich media. Designers may need to provide low-bandwidth alternatives. By mapping these environmental factors, we create a site that feels natural and performant regardless of where it is used. Task analysis is the systematic breakdown of what users need to accomplish into discrete actions. For a shopping site, the overarching goal of purchasing a product is decomposed into steps such as logging in, searching, selecting an item, adding it to the cart, entering payment details, and confirming the order. Each subtask reveals specific system functions that must be supported, for example, the secure payment gateway for the transaction step. Visualizing these steps in a task flow diagram helps designers spot redundancies, missing steps, or opportunities for simplification. The insights from task analysis directly feed into the functional requirements, ensuring that every required capability is justified by a real user need. User task representation examines the mental models that people bring to a web interaction. A schema is a high-level mental representation of a class of events, such as the concept of grocery shopping. A script is a specific sequence derived from that schema, entering a store, picking items, checking out, and leaving. By recognizing these mental structures, designers can choose metaphors that feel familiar, such as a virtual shopping cart that mirrors a physical one. When the site's navigation and workflow align with the user's existing scripts, the learning curve shortens and the experience feels intuitive. Conversely, mismatches between the site's design and the user's mental models can cause confusion and frustration, underscoring the importance of this analysis. Web interface guidelines synthesize research from cognitive psychology, established conventions, and expert recommendations into actionable design rules. They address visual aspects such as layout grids, typography hierarchy, color contrast, and white space, as well as interaction patterns like button placement, form validation, and error messaging. Designers consult style guides, such as the Google Material Design Specification or the W3C Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, to ensure compliance with best practices and legal requirements. By applying these guidelines uniformly across the site, users develop a sense of familiarity and confidence because they know where to find navigation elements and how to interpret feedback. Consistency also reduces cognitive load, allowing users to focus on their tasks rather than learning new interface quirks on each page. Usability evaluation does not stop once the site launches, it is an ongoing activity that sustains the user-centered approach. Qualitative methods such as focus groups, questionnaires, and field observations capture users' attitudes, preferences, and real-world behaviors. Structured interviews and task walkthroughs provide deeper insight into specific pain points and decision-making processes. Expert reviews, often conducted by seasoned HCI professionals, identify violations of design heuristics and suggest improvements. Usability labs enable controlled experiments where metrics like task completion time, error rate, and satisfaction scores are recorded. The data gathered from these activities feed back into the systematic userview process, prompting updates to goals, requirements, or interface guidelines for the next version of the site. This continuous loop ensures the website remains relevant, efficient, and delightful for its users.